Hey everybody. So last week we talked about what you do when you want to start getting a mortgage. We talked about how you're going to get pre-approved, you need to go find a realtor, and then you go start house hunting. But what do you do once you've got a contract? That's what we're going to talk about today. So once you and your realtor have negotiated with the seller and the seller's agent, you're going to end up with a signed contract. That signed contract needs to go to your lender ASAP because the time is ticking. You've got 30, maybe 45 days until closing, and there are a lot of things that need to be done. First and foremost is that your lender is going to communicate with you what your rate's going to be and get that locked in for the time period until you're closing. They're going to send you also something called initial disclosures, which is going to contain a loan estimate. That loan estimate is going to have all of the costs and fees associated with your loan, as well as the rate that you have locked in with, and your estimated cash to close, meaning the money that you need to bring to the closing table in order to purchase this house. Some other things that they're going to do is they're going to order an appraisal. They're going to send out the information for the property to an appraiser or an appraiser panel. That appraiser is going to go out to the property, gather up some comparable properties to figure out if that home is going to be valued at the price that you're purchasing at. And they're going to send that information in a report back to your lender. Your lender is going to review it and make sure that that property value that the appraiser gives you is going to be at the value that you're purchasing or higher. Really, you want to see higher. Sometimes they do come in lower, and there are some things that we can do in those circumstances, but we want to see at value or higher. The other thing that your lender is going to do is going to communicate with the title company. The title company is going to have their own fees that we may or may not know, and what they're going to do is they're going to send over a title report. They're also going to search the property's history to figure out if everything is clear. And those are things that we want to see. Sometimes they come up, there's issues with the title, but it doesn't happen all that often. So there's some of the things that are going to happen right up front when you get that contract to your lender. While your lender is doing those things, you also have a couple things you need to do. First and foremost, you need to get a home inspection. While you were looking at that house, as beautiful as it might have been, there might be some hidden things that you may not have noticed. An inspector is going to be able to look into the walls, look in the attic, look at some things that you may not have noticed, and is going to be able to point those out. The last thing you want is to close on your house and find out that there's a termite infestation or maybe there's mold in the bathroom. But don't be too alarmed with some of those. Some inspectors can be pretty nitpicky. So don't be worried about a leaky faucet or something else that's not quite to your specifications. Keep in mind that some things can be negotiated with the seller and you'll be able to negotiate those things, or it might just be a small charge of you being able to go out and do that yourself or hire somebody like an electrician or a plumber to fix some small and minor issues. Be focused on what the house is as a whole. Don't nitpick those small things because you don't want to miss out on the house of your dreams or potentially run into a problem where rates go up and home prices continue to go up and now you can't afford that house anymore. The other thing you want to do is start shopping for homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance has a wide range of rates depending on the person you're going with, but you need to find an agent who's going to be able to look at different providers for you because homeowners insurance is not always the easiest thing. And they'll be able to answer a lot of questions for you, as well as see if you can get any kind of discounts or anything with that homeowners inspection. So start shopping for that because your lender is going to want those information and they're going to send some information out to your insurance agent to get those things finalized as you get closer and closer to closing. But the sooner you do that, the better. After those things are completed, it's going to look like everything's kind of at a standstill. But trust me, that's not the case. Your lender has sent your file to a processor or an underwriter or both to review all of the documentation that you provided. It's a lot of work to get those things together and it takes some time. Typically, depending on how busy things are, an underwriter will review your file within like 10 to 14 business days. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's much, much shorter, depending on the type of documentation and your in particular circumstances. So what they're going to do is they're going to review all of those things with a fine-tooth comb. They're going to make sure the pay lines up with what we've input into the application. They're going to make sure you have enough money to pay for the closing costs and down payments. And they're going to make sure your credit is good. A couple things to remember during this time that are very important is regarding credit. Do not have your credit pulled at any point during this process. You don't want to go to Home Depot and get that 20% off when you make a purchase, and you don't want to start shopping for furniture if it has anything to do with financing. Don't go buy a car, and if you need to make any kind of large purchase, make sure you let your lender know, because this is a big financial decision and you don't want the small ones to mess up the big one. We've seen it too many times where someone has applied for a credit card and it has messed up their whole file, and then unfortunately they would get denied. Another thing you want to do is don't change your pay structure. Don't start working remote for part-time. Don't move from full-time to part-time. Don't take a pay decrease especially, and definitely do not retire if you're planning on retiring before the closing date. These things are going to get checked all the way up until the closing date and a little bit after. So you want to make sure that nothing changes on your application, being income, your assets, or your credit. These things are extremely important and can be detrimental to the home buying process. So follow me next week. We're going to end it today. Follow me next week and we're going to look at those 3 magic words: clear to close. And we'll finish up this mortgage process. Thanks. See you next time.